Hello everyone, I'm History with Hilbert, and today I'm going to be looking at how Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Now, Hitler had to work very hard to become the Chancellor of Germany. His party, the NSDAP, steadily gained more votes as the elections went on until in March 1933 they were the biggest party in the Reichstag, although under 50% of the Germans voted for them and they didn't have a majority. So one thing we have to look at for Hitler's rise to chancellorship is a bit of the context. So we need to look at the Brüning Years, which were from 1930 to 1932. And Heinrich Brüning was the leader, or a very important figure at least, in the Catholic Centre Party, and he became chancellor in 1930. He was elected by President Hindenburg, because remember the president in Weimar Germany chose the chancellor as well. And his decision to elect Brüning was influenced by two main army figures, Gruner, who we know from the Eber-Gruner Pact of 1919, and von Schleicher. And it's very important to note that these two were of the traditional anti-democratic authoritarian, or the Junker elite. And it's very telling that these are the people who are influencing President Hindenburg, who remember was also anti-democratic, an old, Junker elite, an old military guy. So it's very telling that this is who is sort of in charge or is influencing the democracy at this stage. And Brüning himself was also authoritarian leaning, and the Centre Party, Zentrum in German, was the sort of central right Catholic party that Catholics in Germany voted for, and they were shifting to the right as well in politics. We also start to see the end of sort of the working democracy during the Brüning years in Germany, as all but 5 acts passed through Parliament were passed through with emergency presidential decrees, which were, if you remember in the Weimar Constitution, they were allowed in Article 48. And basically what this means is that in 1932, the people in the Reichstag, the elected MPs in the Reichstag, were disagreeing with each other so much that they couldn't pass anything. They could only pass 5 acts out of a total of over 100, and all the others had to be forced through undemocratically by the president, as was allowed in Article 48. So we start to see that democracy isn't really working. Brüning also tried to ban the SA, who were the Sturmabteilung. They were basically the Nazis' thugs who would, protect the Nazi meetings and would attack other meetings and things like that. And to do this and to gain more support in the Reichstag, he calls an election in September of 1930, and you can see it in the corner there with the amount of people who won. But this fails miserably, and instead lots of extremists are voted into power. So you can see the NSDAP getting a sizable chunk for the first time, as well as the KPD. They also made ground in that election. Now, after Heinrich Brüning, who resigned in May 1932, we get von Papen. And Kurt von Papen, no, it wasn't Kurt von Papen, it was Franz von Papen. Franz von Papen was also of the Centre Party, so also of this Catholic party, and he became Chancellor, though he was very unpopular in the Reichstag and only had 68 seats backing him. Now, von Papen called an election in November 1932, and it's a bit of a gamble as well, and he tries to increase his support, but actually this just leads to the NSDAP, who would later become the Nazis, becoming the largest party in the Reichstag. If you can see in the corner again there, the dark blue, the NSDAP, they've made massive ground. The KPD have also made ground. And basically the centre parties, the traditional parties, are losing ground. And actually, because of this election that he calls, only 32 voted for him and 513 voted against him. We also see in 1932 that the presidency of Hindenburg runs out because he was elected president in 1925. If you're interested to learn more about this, I've actually got a video dedicated to the subject, which I'll link below. But every 8 years, or this is 7 years after, the president is changed, or there is an election in the Weimar Constitution. And in 1932, Hindenburg, his term is over, so they have to hold another election. And Hindenburg, although he's reluctant, he runs for president again because he hates Hitler. He doesn't want Hitler to come into power. And, with hindsight, we can kind of understand why. So Hindenburg is backed by the centre and the leftist parties, which is really weird because Hindenburg is this right-wing guy, but he's got the backing of the traditional left wing and the centre parties. And Hitler was, of course, backed by the right and the far right, so the NSDAP, the DNVP, and also some other right-wingers, because remember, the Nazis were becoming very popular in this era, as could be seen from some of the previous graphics with the amount of seats they got. Now, Ernst Thälmann, who I've mentioned in quite a few videos, actually, in one of my previous ones about the Spanish Civil War, he crops up because the volunteers who go over to Spain for the Republicans, the German battalion was called the Thälmann Battalion after them. But if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link in the description as well. But Ernst Thälmann of the KPD, the Kommunistische Partei Deutschland, the Communist Party of Germany, was obviously, he was the left-wing, the far left-wing candidate. So the results. Hindenburg won with quite a large majority. Hitler came second, quite a way behind Hindenburg, and then absolutely trailing was Ernst Thälmann from the KPD again. I think, Thälmann ran for president in 1925 as well, if I'm not much mistaken. Did he? I can't remember. I think he did. But he lost. The communists lost in that one as well. And you can see the percentages. So, with this slight detour to try and get the presidency, Hitler tries to get back on the chancellorship wagon. And after von Papen, we see that this guy called Kurt von Schleicher becomes the chancellor. And Kurt von Schleicher, a little bit about him, he's very instrumental in the early Weimar years because he's another army guy, so he helped engineer these pacts and agreements like the Eberg-Hohner Pact in 1919, which was between the army and the new government, and it basically sorted that if there was an insurrection, a rebellion, an invasion or whatever, the German army promised to fight for the German government. Now this might seem obvious, well of course they're going to, because they're the national army, so they of course are going to fight for the nation, but in the post-Weimar years, or the post-Reich years, this really wasn't as certain because we see things like the Kapp Putsch, for example. Large parts of the army either completely refused to fight against the rebels or just straight up joined the rebels. So it was a very confusing situation. So he was instrumental there, and he also has the ear of that's hard to say, the ear of Hindenburg. And he's essentially the political head of the army. He's the political face. And as I said, he's an important advisor to President Hindenburg. And it's he who actually got his old friend from the army, von Papen, to be chancellor the year before, although as we all know that failed. And von Schleicher then actually replaces von Papen in mid-November 1932. Now, von Papen has just obviously lost his position as Chancellor, and he's essentially been stabbed in the back by his old friend von Schleicher. But von Papen has a trick up his sleeve. He's going to negotiate with Hitler. So he holds secret talks with Hitler, because he knows that Hitler obviously wants to be Chancellor. Hitler's asked to be Chancellor several times, and Hindenburg has refused him. So they make a deal that von Papen has Hindenburg's ear, and, von Schleicher's term isn't going very well. There's chaos in the Reichstag. So he says, to Hitler, if you make me your vice-chancellor, I'll be the vice-chancellor. I'll persuade Hindenburg to let you be chancellor. And then he thought, I'm regaining some power. Hitler's going to be happy. He's a strong guy to be an ally with, especially with the Sturmabteilung, as well as the SS, who were coming into power at this time. And at the same time, he then promises President Hindenburg that they can make Hitler Chancellor and that this will make him easier to control, although as we all know that turned out fabulously. So Hitler finally becomes Chancellor in January 1933, with von Schleicher's government failing and von Papen promising Hindenburg that he would be a Chancellor in chains, is the term he used. The President made Adolf Hitler Chancellor of Weimar Germany in January of 1933. He was the last. Alright everyone, thank you very much for watching. This has been my video about how Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Now, I hope you have enjoyed watching this video. I know it's been a little all over the place perhaps, and I've made quite a few more videos on this, so if it seems a bit short in places, like I'm going too quickly, then be sure to check the links in the description below, where I have a lot more videos about Weimar. I've also got other stuff about the Tudors and, medieval stuff, Vikings and whatnot, so be sure to check that out if you're new. If you're one of my loyal subscribers, then, love you all, you're very cool. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. I'm History with Hilbert, as I said, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Ooh, very German. Alright guys, see you next time.